Hey friends, here's a lovely little story about Buddha and Ananda. So the story goes, Buddha left his palace at the age of 29, became enlightened at 35, and taught compassion, kindness, enlightenment all the way to the age of 85. So when the Buddha left the palace, 29 years old, his older cousin brother Ananda left with him and stayed by his side. So the Buddha became enlightened, and as he progressed, he gathered a following, entourage of disciples. And one day, Ananda decided to be a disciple of Gautama the Buddha as well. So the evening before his initiation, he told the Buddha, "Now, tomorrow morning, I will become your disciple, and I will have to do exactly as you say. But until then, I am still your older cousin brother. So before the initiation, you must make me 3 promises, and only then will I become initiated." The Buddha smiled and nodded, and this was his way of agreement. Ananda went on to say, 1. You can never ask me to leave your side. I will always be beside you all the way till the end. You can't ask me to leave. Buddha smiled and nodded. 2. You have to answer any question I ask when I ask it. You can't give a short answer or defer. You have to answer any question I ask exactly when I ask it. Buddha smiled and nodded. 3. If I feel you should meet somebody, anybody, any time of the day, you have to be ready and willing to meet that person. And not even just like a quick hello, you have to really properly meet that person. Buddha smiled and laughed and nodded. And Ananda thought, what a peculiar fellow laughing about this, but fine, okay. So next morning, Ananda became initiated. Now years went by, and Ananda saw so many disciples come, practice with the Buddha, become enlightened, move on, practice, move on. They became anharans, highly enlightened people. Yet for Ananda, no change. He was exactly the same as he was. He did not change. How could this be? He became quite frustrated. I've been next to this guy every waking hour, practicing with him, studying with him. I can even repeat what he's saying verbatim, but not enlightened. So he went to the Buddha and asked this question, why haven't I become enlightened? And Buddha laughed and laughed again. And Ananda said again, peculiar fellow laughing at such a thing. Why is he laughing? And the Buddha said, remember so many years ago, you had made that prerequisite, that requirement of 3 things that I must obey by for you to be a disciple? But it's those 3 things that are preventing you from becoming enlightened. Because somewhere in your subconscious mind, you still feel you're my older cousin brother. And you have not surrendered completely to being a disciple. But don't worry about it. As soon as I pass away, you'll become enlightened. And so happens a few years later, when the Buddha passed away, less than 24 hours later, Ananda became fully self-realized. I really like this story because it really points to a wonderful important nuance in that teacher-student relationship. Very often I go and teach in companies and schools and other organizations, and the relationship, at least on the surface, seems to be very mechanical, seems to be very sort of conventional in that I am a service provider and they are the client. And as the saying goes, the client is always right. So whenever I approach this teaching facility, it might have that connotation of a business transaction, which is very unsuitable for the profound depth of a practice like yoga and meditation. So I often tell in the companies and places where I go to, yes, I'm a service provider, yes, you're the client, yes, you're an employee, yes, you're in this building, yes, all these job labels and titles are there, but for this 1 hour or however long I'm there, this place is no longer a company or a school. This place is a sanctuary, an ashram, a dojo, and we have a teacher-student relationship. And it's for the student's benefit. When a student can really surrender in trust, in appreciation, in sincerity to the teacher, the depth of the practice becomes much more profound. This is how I learned yoga. I was so deeply moved by my teacher that you surrender in a way, in the trust, and in that they can take you much deeper in the practice. But if you stay at a transactional level of just a business transaction, the depth is quite often compromised. Much love with all the teaching and learning.